Our psalm for today is Psalm 55, and in Psalm 55, David is in anguish in his heart. In fact, he is in so much anguish that he says in verse 6, "Oh, that I had wings like a dove, I'd fly away and be at rest." Have you ever been so troubled in your heart that you just wanted to disappear? You just wanted to fly away. You just wanted to go away and be away from it all. Well, that's where David's at. And the reason David feels this way is because he's been betrayed. Now, not just by an enemy. He actually says in verse 12, if it was an enemy, he could handle it, but it's by his close friend. And so in verse 13, he says, "But it's you, O man, my equal, my companion, my familiar friend. We used to take sweet counsel together." David has been betrayed by somebody who was close to him, that he shared his life with, he opened up with. They shared each other's lives, and now this person has betrayed him. And he's just deeply in anguish over that. There's a unique pain, I think, that comes from being betrayed by a friend. And so what does David do? Well, in 17, I think he gives us real practical advice. He says, evening, morning, and noon, he says, I utter my complaint and moan. So he brings his complaint to God 3 times a day. And then in verse 22, it's our memory verse for the day, all right? So it says, cast your burden on the Lord. He will sustain you. He will never permit the righteous to be moved. You know, there are some things that they're just too heavy. You know, you're not meant to try to carry them. You're meant to cast them on the Lord. You're meant to just get them off of you and onto God. And David says he's able to do that, and he's able to trust a couple things. Number one, that God's going to sustain him, that God's going to take care of him. And then the second thing is that God won't allow the righteous to be moved. You know, sometimes it feels like that everything's going to be lost, that all is going to be, terrible now because of what's been done to us. But God still has a plan for David. And what's really cool is that we don't know exactly what the situation is. That the context doesn't tell us. But we do know that there was a time in David's life where he was betrayed by his son Absalom, run out of Jerusalem. And his close friend, Ahithophel, his counselor, betrays him and sides with Absalom and launches, just this attack on David. And it's also interesting that there's several of these Psalms that have this theme of being betrayed by a friend. And one of them, the New Testament directly refers to in context with Jesus and Judas. And the two beautiful things about both Jesus and David in this situation, having been betrayed by a friend, is that both of them are sustained by the Lord. In both cases, they're not moved. Like God exalts Jesus to be the King of Kings. David remains the King of Israel. And then also at the very last verse, it says, but God will cast them down. God will take care of them. And both Ahithophel and Judas actually take their own lives. And so in both cases, they could cast that burden onto the Lord and trust that God would take care of them. So Lincoln, keep reading the Psalms.